Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered, behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have a really exciting interview ahead of us today about having a business that's a vehicle for philanthropy and legacy. Today, you'll be meeting Laura Gisborne, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who partners with women to create systems for growth and impact. Welcome to the show, Laura. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Suzy. I'm excited to be with you today.
Me too. I know we're going to have a good conversation about your midlife entrepreneur story. We're going to be talking about your business, what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way, what might be popping up, and I'm having trouble with the word what, and what might be challenging for you in your life as well as being a business owner. Sorry about that. Sometimes that happens. So let's get started with how old you are, how long you've been an entrepreneur, and a little bit about your journey and what it is you do in the world. So take it away.
Right. So it's so interesting. So as we're recording this, I am 56. I'll be 57 in just a few weeks. And I probably wouldn't even be thinking about that if you hadn't asked me how old I was.
Oh my gosh. Happy birthday. Yeah. I'm going to be 60 in a couple of weeks. And
when is your birthday?
26.
All right. I'm August 12th.
Oh, we're so close. We're both Leos.
There we go. Good. So we like to be in the spotlight. Yeah. And so my entrepreneurial journey started when I married my first husband in my early 20s here in Texas, actually, which is interesting. It's kind of a full circle. I've been lots of other places in the meantime, but that was, started married into a family business, into a restaurant that was owned by his family, which became my family. And then one business led to another. At this point now, as I'm speaking with you, I've owned 9 companies over the last 30 plus years, and I've sold 6 of them. So a lot of the times, when I'm speaking to a woman about her legacy, her impact, the conversation around exit strategy is difficult to get your head around if you're just a solopreneur, kind of figure out this is my baby, this is what I'm doing, versus building a business that's really here to live beyond you.
Yes, you're right. And, exit strategy is challenging for midlife women anyway.
Yeah.
To think about it, because typically entrepreneurs really like what they're doing, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And in the last couple of years, I had so many of my friends retire. So you see it on Facebook. You start to see posts, mostly teachers, right? Somebody who started early and ended up in a union or something. But entrepreneurs don't think like that. So it's so interesting. You're right. And solopreneurs, it doesn't come up as.
Well, there's different ways to exit, right? I mean, it's interesting because I just saw an email from, we lived in Colorado for several years. And I saw an email from an organization there. It was started by a young woman who was so dynamic and really put her heart into it. And I'd say my guess is that she probably was around for about 6 or 7 years. So a long time. It wasn't like she was a one-hit wonder, and she had, multiple streams and a really great community, and just sent out the email saying, we're going away, we're going out of business. And so, I like to speak with women entrepreneurs, especially in this season of life where we are, about alternative. A lot of people don't know they can sell a business. It hasn't really come to their purview. Closing is obviously one of the ways to exit, but it's cool if you can have this organization that you've created move forward and continue to provide service after you are, sitting on the beach or doing whatever turns you on.
Now, what do you think the main reason is that so many entrepreneurs don't even think about it as an option?
Honestly, I think that people don't think that they can sell a business because they don't really understand their numbers. And often it comes down to profitability. Often a woman will, there's a couple of different lanes here, Suzy. One is when someone's a service-based professional. And we tend to, in our community of Limitless Women, attract women who are doctors, lawyers, accountants, bookkeepers, all service-based. We don't do much with product-based anymore. And so I kind of think that they end up feeling a little bit like self-employed people. If they're not working, the business isn't necessarily making money. So if they feel like they pull themselves out of it, what is it that they have to sell? That's one challenge. The second challenge is often a business owner doesn't realize all the places that a business is actually providing income for her. right? So there's other places where she's taking money for travel or taking money for education or taking money for consulting. All those things can be put back into the bottom line of a business when you're looking at the value to go and sell it.
So interesting.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad I said something interesting.
Oh, I knew you would.
Cutie pie. Yeah, it's great. Just in case you say something interesting, here it is. Here's something we didn't think we were going to talk about. It's awesome. Perfect.
Oh, you're hilarious, Laura. So good. Okay, now we're laughing away and you're doing an amazing job with women for sure. But we both know, and the listeners know, that midlife hiccups, challenges, crap can really get in the way. And it can really affect your life and also the way you want to run a business. And I know this has been a reality for you. So do you want to share a bit about what's come up for you?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I have a looking good thing, Suzy. I think this idea that I not to be inauthentic with anyone, but I think I tend to be the glass half full, right? Like we can keep moving forward. I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm toxic positivity, but I'm really up. I'm probably close, right? I'm just really up there with like believing in what's possible all the time. And what happened for me in 2020 during COVID, the day after Christmas, actually December 26th, I drove out of my house and head on into traffic and created a head on collision at 60 miles an hour. So it was a pretty traumatic experience. And, for the grace of God, no one was hurt, myself or anyone else. But it was a big wake up call. It was a big wake up call. And that catalyzed a series of medical tests to figure out why in the world that would be happening, and discovered that I had a lot going on in my body that I wasn't really acknowledging. And I think it's the part that's curious for me is that I'm out here leading with health and wellness. I'm not a health coach by any means, but I really believe in taking care of this vessel that carries our soul and how important it is to be in touch with our body and communicate with our body and take care of our body. And here my body was telling me some things I wasn't aware. There were things I didn't know that I didn't know. So fast forward now, I've had 4 surgeries since September of last year. And there's been a lot of awarenesses of how much we have, nature versus nurture, if you will. So they're the things that we have genetically going on for us that are happening with our bodies and what we can do to engage with what's healthy for us, right? I don't know if I'm not trying to speak in circles without getting into all the diagnoses, unless you want me to, I'll tell you, but it's the piece around like how it was affecting my day-to-day business that I wasn't even aware of. There are all these different things. So how we did things, one of the great luxuries of being an entrepreneur is working on your own schedule, right? Working when you want to work. And what I'll tell you is that when we have live events, we host live events, business trainings, and we don't start before 10 in the morning. Part of that probably was like a subconscious because I wasn't sleeping, but I wasn't aware that I wasn't sleeping, right? So I have severe obstruction in my sleep. And so it's an interesting thing how we tend to, how I attended to accommodate things that I didn't even realize were hurting me, and changing my systems around it. So it's been a good bit of a wake up call for sure.
I'm just reflecting on a retreat that I went to recently and they started early, like at 8:30. Yeah. That's what's happening in your world.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's one thing for the sleep diagnosis, but it's also a thing of like the season of life of, a lot of women that are in our season of life are struggling with sleep just because our hormones are out of whack or our weight is out of whack or our thyroid is out of whack. There's a lot of out of whackness, right? And then we add the stressors of entrepreneurship and business ownership. And so finding a system for good, healthy sleep is really, it's vital. Our body needs it more than anything. I will say this is a plug for somebody that's just no endorsement for me, but it's not an affiliate or something. The book, Why We Sleep, is really probably one of the best books I've read in about 10 years. Just so many places that we're not even aware that we're not aware. And you can look up the guy, he's got a TED Talk and he's got, an Audible of this, but Why We Sleep is an interesting adventure for anybody who's in the sleep discovery process right now.
Yes. I love that you brought that up, and I'm so sorry it was a huge problem for you, but it sounds like you're on top of things now. And it was surprising to see something start that young in the day, that early in the day, because one of the things that so many women over 50 just appreciate is having a morning to themselves for a variety of reasons. And certainly the unpredictability of sleep comes up a lot, but also just to start their day with some private time, with maybe a routine that they find easier to do in the morning. And it becomes one of those things that so many of us are so grateful for.
Yeah.
That you don't need to commute and go downtown and do whatever that changes the whole day. At least that's what I was dealing with when I worked downtown.
Well, I think it sets the energy, right? I mean, we get to choose. Anyone who's listening to this lives in somewhat of a developed environment, right? They're able to access a computer and access technology, or access a phone and access technology. So, one of the great luxuries of what we have in time freedom now, because we have access to resources, is to be able to choose when we work and how we work. And what I find often is that the time and money conversation is really, it's like two sides of the same coin. Working in a way that is efficient and effective versus just working to work is really a great luxury. Really working for purpose versus working because we have to survive is something that's it's easy to forget about, that we have that luxury. It really is a privilege.
Absolutely. And the one other thing that comes up with rest and sleep that I've heard a lot on this podcast, talking to so many women, is this idea of resisting sleep. So sometimes we can't sleep. Sometimes we can't get to sleep. Sometimes we can't stay asleep. Sometimes we resist sleep and we're staying up so late. And that's something I've personally been working on. And I just watch myself get so excited about the house being quiet and nobody bugging me, realizing I'm tired, but craving that time. Mm-hmm. And so it's so interesting to watch women be affected by thoughts about productivity and privacy and space, and how that can really get in the way too. It's very complicated, but you're right. It's incredibly necessary to sort.
Well, it's interesting. If we're looking for kind of the magic wand for health, there's so much that happens in the simple reset. If you think about a baby being born and how they're sleeping, for 1/3 of their life, it just seems like a bizarre concept. When you actually look at what the body requires for all of our systems, it becomes a gift.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Now, as an older woman, what have you noticed about being an entrepreneur? And I know you've been an entrepreneur for a long time, but at this age, have you noticed anything different, either personally or perceptions of how you're showing up, what you're doing as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think the big awareness I have around that question, Suzy, is the difference of being kind of the evolution, from my own personal development, of being a young person and trying to be all things for all people versus being a mature person. I don't know if I'd call myself an older woman yet, but I guess I have to identify that way, right? Got to be looking at the second half at the bare minimum at 56. The idea that I can choose who I work with and I can choose who I partner with. I mean, I consider our clients partners. And so I think that, again, there's a great luxury in that. There's also a really, I have a reverence for the work that we do. I have reverence for the fact that we get to work with other leaders who are really here to create impact with their work. Money is great. And I can tell you, I've been rich and I've been poor, and rich is way more fun. And it's just that when you reach a certain level of sufficiency, when we actually have the freedom to choose what we do with our time, it's a great luxury. It's a really great luxury. So I try to remember to be aware of that.
That is so good. You're right. It is a luxury. And it's funny also that you mentioned older. I was very careful when I chose that word, because when I was thinking about it, I didn't want to say old. But older, we're older than we were yesterday. But certainly I noticed when I was in a job for 19 years and a career for 27 years, I started to hang my virtual hat on this idea that I had seniority, that I was older, that I'd been around for a long time. And it wasn't until I got laid off and I realized that thought wasn't helping me at all. The way I was thinking about value, and it was leading to a lot of fear about being an older and wiser woman in the marketplace for work and in the workforce. And I realized I was more fearful than I thought. So I thought choosing the word older in this context, I was getting at experienced, but maybe I should choose the word experienced for the question.
I think you should choose whatever feels resonant for you. I think, again, you're going to, and let me not give you advice you're not asking for, but you're going to magnetize people to you that are synchronistic with your energy and your beliefs. And we are older. We're not, again, I often say to younger people, my oldest child is now 38. And my youngest child is 27. So, when I'm talking to the kids, I'll make comments about being an old person. And what's fantastic is what we don't know, Suzy, is how long we have, right? There's a country western song. I live in Texas now, so bear with me on that one, but it's all about living like you're dying. And I think if you've ever experienced a wake-up call, which I think most of us that are in a mature season of life, we're not 18. We've been around a little while. We've experienced different things. You have these opportunities to become aware of what matters. COVID-19 was one of those incredible opportunities for all of us that are still here, right? That we had the opportunity to really recognize what mattered and how we chose to spend our time. So yeah, there's a great gift in that wisdom.
Oh, I agree. In fact, it's one of my biggest motivators because I've outlived both my parents. They died when I was very young. They were 32 and 41, and I was a kid. And so I really got the message that aging is a gift. They didn't have the privilege to age. And it's really influenced my work. And it's one of the reasons that I try to, I successfully bring this up with my clients constantly, because the effect of negative thinking about aging is more, it's causing more problems in business than most of us are aware. When it comes to possibility and it comes to just really understanding what you can do versus what you can't do. It's kind of like, it's one of those negative thoughts that shows up, much like money mindset types of thoughts. You don't even know you have them, or scarcity types of thoughts. You don't even know you have. Anyway, I'm just glad we had a chance to talk about it, because it is really interesting word, and it does trigger a lot of thoughts and feelings, because I don't think of myself as older, but in this context, I am older. I'm older than I think.
Yeah. Here's the thing. So how could that be a little sexier? How could that be a little more engaging and exciting for your audience, right? To really look at like, wow, who knew that at this age, all this would be possible? I remember my mother being really old, if you will, in her mindset, and just, kind of set in her ways and not happy and not vibrant at 40.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of people, again, we're in this conversation of personal development, business development. Again, what a luxurious conversation to be in. And there's a whole lot of people that have spent their lives just getting by, getting to a point where they're like, okay, now I can disconnect, to just sit around and kind of wait. Well, what are you waiting for? What is that? Right? What is that? So it's interesting. I'll tell you a quick blurb, if I may, that when in 2017, my husband was diagnosed terminal with heart disease. And his doctor said, you need to go live right now. I'm going to buy you some time. He had emergency open heart surgery. It was very severe. And he didn't fit any of the profiles. So he had like 4 different doctors tell him, oh, you have indigestion. They were doing their best, but everybody missed it. The bottom line is that I felt like we really were living our lives pretty vibrantly prior to that. And then I look at this fast forward today, as you and I are talking, it's been 6 years since he was told that's it. And here we are. Wow. So we don't know. We don't know. What if we actually just had this beautiful, amazing gratitude and presence for what is each day? What kind of life do we get to live? When we say our prayers of gratitude, it's always, thank you, Lord. We'll take more of the same. We'll take more, right? Whatever you've got for us, it's good.
Wow. And that brings us right to the next question, where I asked you to explain what you really wanted in your business in the notes. Yeah. And you said that you put God first. Can you explain a little bit about this part of your life and what you want next?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question and reminding me of what I said, because I answered those questions a while ago before I went off on this big adventure. So my brain's reconnecting. Here's the deal. When I wrote my first book, which was published in 2012, I was at an interview series for an author, like an author panel. And a woman asked me, she was like in the back of the room. It was one of those moments where you remember where you were right then. Somebody said something to you. She, asked me, she said, Laura, I have a question for you. You're here sharing with us what it is to write a book and how we can do, X, Y, or Z with our book. What happened for you when you wrote your book? And it was like one of those moments, Suzy, where like the sky opened and my brain was like, oh, I realized through all of my childhood, in which I experienced a tremendous amount of violence and abuse and anorexia. And then I was in a domestic violence relationship, I wasn't married to him. That was my normal. My normal was so far different than the life I live today. What I realized in that conversation was that I had never been alone. And when I wrote my book, which means I read my book, right? I kind of read my own life story. I thought, God always opened up the next door. there was always something there. And I had moved away from my faith. It wasn't something that I was walking and talking, if you will. But what I knew in that experience was that when I walk in faith, when I embrace synchronicity, I believe, this is just my 2 cents, I believe that we pray, we meditate in those quiet times that are so precious to us, Suzy. You say like the house is quiet and you're there and you're really like, you can hear that still small voice. You're having your own conversations with God, right? The divine is there with us. We are the divine and we're very connected. When we do that, when we're praying, when we're asking, I feel like God shows us opportunities. And it's interesting being an entrepreneur because we are the people who do what other people say can't be done, right? We're the ones who are always seeing them. I wonder if there's a way to build a better mousetrap. I wonder if there's a different way to solve that problem. I wonder if there's a way that that could be done a little easier or more gracefully, right? That's literally what we do as business owners is solve problems. That's what business is. So I feel like God puts those opportunities in front of us. And my personal practice is to continue to remember to be more present so that I can be a good receiver. What if everything we really wanted was right there for us right now? And it's just about our willingness to open, to receive, and our willingness to tap into the flow of what is.
That's true. That's so good. Mm-hmm. So you also mentioned that you live a life that you love. Like, how great is that?
I just had a glass of wine before I wrote this. It sounds like I was just spilling my beans. Yeah.
Yes, there are beans here for sure. Well, and I also asked you about regrets, and you said that your only regrets are about saying unkind things to people I love. You said also that you've cleared the air, all has been forgiven, but that you still regret that. It's still on your mind.
If I could take something back, right? And, I think it's the ideal of live like you're dying, right? Live fully and go for what's important to you, go for what matters is one thing to say it. It's a whole nother thing to live each day and ask yourself, are you in alignment with what you believe? Are you in alignment with your core values? Are your actions in alignment with what's coming out of your mouth, right? There's a saying, I have a little sign somewhere. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, of course I do. I have it right here. Oh, thank you, Lord. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, become your character. Watch your character, becomes your destiny. We say legacy in our world. But this is as I'm unpacking to be back into my house. It's right here. I knew it would be. I always keep it close. Here's the deal, right? Like, how do each of us catch ourselves in thoughts and behaviors that don't really match what matter? It all starts with that. So it really is a daily practice. And living a life I love, to go back to that, to put a caboose on that train, I get often asked like funky questions, funky questions. Like, is this what you wanted? Is this what you dreamed of? I never dreamed as a child. I really grew up in a very survival mode environment. And that became my normal again in my early 20s. There were women who saw me when I could not see myself. It's literally why I founded Limitless Women, to pay that forward, to give back in a mentorship and a leadership environment to other women so that they could be lifted up, right? So that each of us together can do our part to heal cycles of poverty and abuse and bring love to the planet, right? Not that you're asking my mission, but there it is. So it's that place of, I couldn't imagine the life I have today. It is so much bigger than I knew how to dream.
Right. That's the beauty of dreaming. Like, you can only dream as far as you can dream.
Yeah. You only know what you know, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's so beautiful. Okay. So tell us a little bit about Limitless Women.
Yeah. So Limitless Women, like most businesses, I started this, kind of dabbling in 2010, 2011. I started receiving some invitations to speak, and I wasn't a speaker. I wasn't an author. It wasn't anywhere on my radar. I owned 4 different businesses at the time. I still had teenagers at home. I kept saying, thank you, but I don't think this is for me. I think this is for somebody. I kept trying to pass my invitations to other people, right? It wasn't something that I was looking for. That has grown now to a community of women who are really committed to finding profitability so they can use their profits for purpose. The conversation about giving back and making a difference with your work is something that I don't often see. And it's not that it doesn't exist. I just don't experience it often with young people in their 20s and 30s. They're on the career track. They're doing the do, right? My son who's 30 just got accepted to graduate school. Like, they're in that season of life, right? And then those of us that fast forward here to what we're going to call midlife or older, more mature, we've been given the gift to still be here, right? Thank you, Lord. And we've reached some level of sufficiency of ourselves. And if we are still full of that burning yearning to keep growing and expanding, it creates the conversation of what now, right? What could I not see when I was in survival mode, when I was doing the do and work at the career and doing the things I had to do? Now that I have a little bit of space, what would I do with this precious gift? Yeah. So we host business training fundraisers. We have an amazing mastermind for legacy leaders, for women who come together and support each other. Most of them, work together in many different capacities, as well as being amazing girlfriends. And and then I'm out here doing my thing, sharing my message.
Ooh, so good. What's the name of the book that you were referencing?
Well, my first book is called Stop the Spinning, Move from Surviving to Thriving. I'm currently working on a book called The Midlife.
Oh, and when do you think that'll be finished?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking me. Because that'll make me do it, right? It's funny because my second book, which is called the title is Limitless Women, which is about, the subtitle is Empowering the Next Generation of Leaders to Give Big and Live Big. That one's all about philanthropy. I was on stage in Dallas and was talking about, if you've been procrastinating on something for more than 2 weeks, hire someone to get it done, right? So then I was like, oh, well, I have this whole book that's just sitting there in a PDF. Somebody needs to help me. So came home immediately and hired someone to help me get it published. I would say The Midlife is my venture. If I venture to guess, because I have about 40 pages written already, my venture to guess is we'll probably publish in January or at the end of this year. Yeah.
That's not even that far.
No, I'm conscious. I'm actually inviting myself to lead a Midlife and to be shown what it is. And I feel that there's a way in a partnership of who is going to publish it that I can't see yet. I always feel like God shows me what I need to know when I'm ready. So I just keep showing up and keep asking, show me what I need to know today. And then as I'm ready, it shows up. So I'll let you know.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, thanks. I think again, I will true confession here. I am a person who's not on social media a lot. So if you send me a message on social media, please don't be offended if I don't get back with you. It's not personal. If you reach out to me through my website, through limitlesswomen.com, there's contact boxes everywhere. And you can message me through social media. I have a team of people that support me. They'll let me know if you write to me there. Text me. Really, all my friends, families, and clients text me. That's the way I work, because I'm not a big fan of email. I'm grateful for email, but I think it can really become a time suck.
Okay, but you've got the website there. That's great.
It works. Yeah.
Very clear. Okay, Laura, thank you so much. This was so interesting. I knew you'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm so honored. Yeah, thank you, Suzy.
And it's just, you've given a lot to think about, and your work in the world is so important and is really making an impact for sure. Thank you so much for taking the time from your day and for sharing everything, for being so authentic, especially what was going on for you with your health and your husband. Just thanks for everything. And thanks for what you're doing. You're amazing.
So appreciate you.
All right. That is it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would also like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.